Hello, 8th graders. This is Teacher Monica, and welcome to our lesson today on solving corresponding parts of congruent triangles. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to identify the corresponding sides and corresponding angles of the given triangles. Show the corresponding parts of the given triangles and triangle congruent statements. You are also expected to evaluate the corresponding parts of congruent triangles and appreciate the equality in daily living. Okay, before proceeding, let me check first your knowledge in our previous lesson by answering this question. When do we say that two angles are congruent? Okay, when there are three corresponding angles and three corresponding sides which are also congruent. Okay, with that knowledge, we are going to have this activity. You complete the table by providing the needed data. So in the table, we have there congruent statements, corresponding angles, and corresponding sides. So given the data on the congruent statements, triangle CAT is congruent to triangle NEL, and triangle DCP is congruent to triangle MST. You are going to provide the corresponding angles and the corresponding sides. And I will only be giving you 30 seconds to do it. Okay, time is up. Now let us answer. For congruent statement number 1, triangle CAT is congruent to triangle NEL. So the corresponding angles are, angle C corresponds to angle N, angle A corresponds to angle E, and angle T corresponds to angle L. And for the corresponding sides, we have side CA corresponds to side NE. Side AT corresponds to side EL. And side CT corresponds to side NL. For congruent statement number 2, triangle DCP is congruent to triangle MST. The corresponding angles are, angle D corresponds to angle M, angle C corresponds to angle S, and angle P corresponds to angle T. And for the corresponding sides, we have side DC corresponds to side MS. Side CP corresponds to side ST. And side DP corresponds to side MT. Were you able to determine the corresponding angles and corresponding sides given the congruent statements? Very good. Now let us begin by exploring the world of congruent triangles and the important role they play in construction. We have here a figure of a truss. This is a triangulated system where straight structural elements such as beams, bars, or rods are interconnected. So this is a strong frame that supports a building or a bridge. Suppose we are going to give or to assign points on the truss and take into consideration the two triangles, triangle SUN and triangle HOT, to be congruent. What are the 6 pairs of congruent parts? So we have angle S is congruent to angle H. Angle U is congruent to angle O. Angle N is congruent to angle T. Side SU is congruent to side HO. Side UN is congruent to side OT. And side SN is congruent to side HT. So these are the 6 corresponding parts of the two triangles, triangle SUN and triangle HOT. Considering that angle S is congruent to angle H, and if angle S is equal to 28 degrees, then what is the measure of angle H? So it is also 28 degrees. Why? Because angle S is congruent to angle H. So if angle S measures 28 degrees, then definitely angle H also measures 28 degrees because the two angles are congruent. If angle U is congruent to angle O, and if angle U is 92 degrees, then the measure of angle O is also 92 degrees. If angle N is congruent to angle T, and if angle N measures 60 degrees, then angle T also measures 60 degrees. Now, if side SU is congruent to side HO, and if side SU measures 4 feet, then what is the measure of side HO? Definitely, it also measures 4 feet because the two angles or the two sides are congruent. Side UN is congruent to side OT. Now, if side UN measures 3 feet, then side OT also measures 3 feet. And if side SN is congruent to side HT, and if side SN measures 5 feet, then side HT also measures 5 feet. Now remember this symbol, the symbol that has two arrowheads at both ends, that is read as corresponds to. So this is read as vertex C corresponds to vertex O. This is read as side CA corresponds to side OF. Remember also that two angles are congruent if and only if their vertices can be paired so that corresponding sides and corresponding angles are congruent. And corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, now let us Identify the corresponding sides and corresponding angles of the given triangles in example number 1. Given that triangle AIM is congruent to triangle SET, list down the corresponding parts. So what are the corresponding parts? We have corresponding angles and the corresponding sides are angle A corresponds to angle S, angle I corresponds to angle E, and angle M corresponds to angle T. And the corresponding sides are side AI corresponds to side SE. Side IM corresponds to side ET. And side AM corresponds to side ST. Okay, this time, given the congruent corresponding parts, we will name the congruent triangles. Ang mga congruent corresponding parts naman ang given, hahanapin na naman natin ngayon kung ano ang congruent triangles. Now, even without a figure, we can easily determine or name the congruent triangles. Anong gagawin natin? Just determine the 3 vertices and the 3 sides of each triangle. So, halimbawa, the given vertices are angle M is congruent to angle C, angle A is congruent to angle P, and angle T is congruent to angle U. And the congruent sides are side MA is congruent to side CP, side AT is congruent to side PU, side MT is congruent to side CU. So, given ang mga corresponding congruent vertices and sides. So, the two corresponding or congruent triangles are triangle MAT and triangle CPU. For the second example, given that triangle IEF is congruent to triangle HGF, we are going to find angle H. So what do you think is the answer? So the answer is angle H is equal to 40 degrees. Bakit siya 40 degrees? Because angle H is congruent to angle I. And angle I measures 40 degrees. Definitely, angle H also measures 40 degrees. They have equal measures because they are congruent angles. Okay? Now, let us have another example. Given that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle ADC, we are going to find for y. We're going to solve for the value of y. So, how are you going to do it? So, we have here the solution. Since side AB is congruent to side AD, so by definition of congruent side, we can say that 3y is equal to 18. And applying the property or the multiplication property of equality, we are going to multiply the reciprocal of the numerical coefficient of 3y para po mawala yung 3 at maiwan na lang si y. So the reciprocal of the numerical coefficient of y is 1/3. So we are going to multiply 1/3 to both sides of the equation. So that is multiplication property of equality. Then we are going to simplify. So 1/3 times 3y will give us 3y over 3. And 18 times 1/3 will give us 18 over 3. So we are now going to divide. 3y divided by 3 will give us y. And 18 divided by 3 will give us 6. Therefore, the value of y is equal to 6. Okay, let's take another example. So given that triangle MYX is congruent to triangle JAN, angle M is equal to 40 degrees and angle A is equal to 70 degrees. So those are the given. So we are going to find for angle X. So how are we going to do it? So we have here angle M is congruent to angle J. Angle Y is congruent to angle A. And angle X is congruent to angle N. Now, applying the angle sum theorem, we have angle M plus angle Y plus angle X is equal to 180 degrees. So the sum of these three vertices or three angles is 180 degrees. Now we are going to substitute the value of angle M because given po siya. That is 40 degrees. So we have angle M is 40 degrees. Substitute din natin ang value ng angle Y which is 70 degrees. Now, kung nakikita natin, walang given na angle Y dito na 70 degrees. Ang given here is angle A na 70 degrees. So, bakit 70 degrees ang nilagay natin kay angle Y? Because angle Y is congruent to angle A. So if angle A measures 70 degrees, then definitely angle Y also measures 70 degrees. Plus, yung hinahanap natin na angle X, that is 180 degrees. Then we're now going to simplify. 40 degrees plus 70 degrees, that is 110 degrees, plus angle X is equal to 180 degrees. Now, we are looking for the value of our angle X. So, how are we going to find for its value? So, applying the addition property of equality, we have here positive 110 degrees. So, para mawala po siya, we are going to add its additive inverse. So, that is negative 110 degrees. So, 110 degrees plus negative 110 or minus 110 degrees plus x is equal to 180 minus 110 degrees. Dapat po, both sides. Pag mag-add tayo dito ng negative 110 degrees, dapat mag-add din tayo sa kabila ng negative 110 degrees. That is addition property of equality. So, 110 plus negative 110 or simply 110 minus 110, that is 0. So, ang maiwan na lang dyan ay si angle X. So 180 degrees minus 110 will give us 70 degrees. So, ibig sabihin po, ang sagot natin, the value of angle X is also 70 degrees. Kung i-check po natin yan, we will just substitute the values of the three vertices. So, if angle M is 40 degrees, angle Y is 70 degrees, at ang angle X natin ay 70 degrees. So, 40 plus 70 plus 70, that is 180 degrees. Okay? So, the value of angle X is 70 degrees. Okay, so naintindihan po yun. Now, let us perform this activity. So, you can pause this video so that you can answer. Okay? So, let us answer. Given is, the figure below shows that triangle JOY is congruent to triangle FUL. So the problem is, you are going to find the value of N and the measure of angle L. So we know that triangle JOY is congruent to triangle FUL. So the corresponding angles are angle U is congruent to angle O. Thus, they have the same measure. So you complete. So angle U, which is 2n plus 10 degrees, is congruent to angle O, which is 70 degrees. So, in order to eliminate this 10 at ang maiwan na lang ay si 2n, we are going to apply the addition property of equality. So, nag-add tayo dito ng additive inverse of 10, which is negative 10. So, pag mag-add tayo dito ng negative 10, dapat dito sa kabila ay mag-add din tayo ng negative 10. So, we have here 10 minus 10. Ang maiwan na lang ay si 2n. Then, 70 minus 10 ay magiging 60. So, what are we going to do next? What are we going to fill here? Since 2 is the numerical coefficient of n, we are going to take the reciprocal of 2 and that is 1/2. So, multiply that by 2n. And then, kung nag-multiply tayo dito sa kabila ng 1/2, dapat mag-multiply din tayo sa kabila ng 1/2. That is multiplication property of equality. Then after that, we are going to simplify. So, 1/2 times 2n, ang magiging sagot dyan ay 2n over 2. So, 60 times 1/2, the result is 60 over 2. So, we are going to simplify. 2n divided by 2 is n, and 60 divided by 2 is 30. Therefore, the value of n is 30. So, paano natin malaman kung tama yan? So, if we are going to substitute that dito sa ating given. So, 2 times the value of n, which is 30, is 60. Plus 10, that is 70. Since angle U is 70 and that is congruent to angle O, which is also 70. So, ibig sabihin, tama ang value ng ating n. How about ang value ng ating angle L? Ilan kaya ang value ng ating angle L? So, angle L, ang hahanapin natin na value dito. So, by angle sum theory, we have angle J plus angle O plus angle Y is 180 degrees. So, 70 plus 60, that is 130, plus 50, that is 180. So, since angle Y and angle L are congruent, or corresponding angles. And if angle Y measures 50 degrees, therefore, angle L also measures 50 degrees. Okay? Did you get the correct answer? Great. Now let's proceed. Always remember that two angles are congruent if and only if their vertices can be paired so that corresponding sides and corresponding angles are congruent. And corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Now let us go back to this figure. We can see the important application of this lesson in these trusses. We can see that congruent triangles have both the same shape and the same size. And a triangle is considered the most stable shape. This is also considered as one of the most important shapes in architecture and engineering, like for example, the bridge, and of course, in building structures like our houses. Okay, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, a triangle is considered as one of the most stable shape. At yan ang ginagamit, especially in building structures like our home or our houses. So, kung titingnan natin dito, ay merong congruent triangles. So, yan ay importante upang magkaroon ng matatag na tahanan or matatag na bahay. At kaakibat ng pagkakaroon ng isang matatag na bahay, ay dapat magkaroon din ng isang matatag na pamilya sa loob ng bahay na yan or ng tahanan. At dyan ngayon papasok ang role ng ating parents. So take note that parents are not the people you come from. They are the people you want to be when you grow up. So bilang maging kayo ay maging isang magulang sa hinaharap, as early as now, dapat ay alam niya kung paano ang pag-create ng isang matatag na bahay at ng isang matatag na pamilya. Kaya malaki ang role na ginagampanan ng isang parent dito or ng mga magulang. So, ang mga magulang natin ay parehong merong role na ginagampanan. Magkaiba nga lang ang klase ng kanilang ginagawa or ginagampanan. But the fact remains that they have an equal role in building a matatag na family. So, dapat pareho ang mama at ang papa ay mag-alaga ng mga anak. So, hindi ibig sabihin na babae ang nagbuntis, siya lang ang mag-alaga ng anak. So, both parents should give an equal time nila sa pag-alaga ng kanilang mga anak. Dapat din, both ay merong role or merong equal time na binibigay sa pagpapalaki, pagpapakain sa kanilang mga anak. Now, kung halimbawa ang father ang nagtatrabaho, ang mother, of course, ang siyang mag-aalaga ng mga anak sa bahay. Kung ang mother ay walang trabaho at ang father lang ang nagtatrabaho. Or, kung ang mother naman ang nagtatrabaho, of course, ang father na walang trabaho, siya din ang mag-aalaga ng mga anak sa bahay. So, pareho sila na merong ginagampanan na role sa pagbuo ng isang matatag at masayang pamilya. Maging sa pagpapaaral, dapat ay equal din sila or pareho din sila na mag-share or mag-alaga or magturo sa kanilang mga anak. At kahit na sa pag-train ng mga anak ng mga skills, dapat ay parehong present or equal ang ginagampanan na role ng ating mga magulang at kayo bilang maging magulang din in the future. Okay? So, dapat equal. Hindi ibig sabihin na pag babae lang, siya lang lahat ang gagawa ng mga trabahong bahay at hindi natutulong ang father. So, dapat tutulong din. Okay? Para magkaroon ng isang matatag at masayang pamilya. Okay, with those information, data, mga concepts that you have learned, this time we're going to have a short quiz. So you are going to fill in the blanks with the correct answer. Hahanapin ang sagot mula dito sa box. And you're only given 30 seconds to answer. Okay, time is up. For letter B, you are going to determine if the triangles are congruent. Write the corresponding congruent parts and write the statement of congruence. So, 1 point for that and 3 points for the congruent statements. And you're also given 30 seconds to answer. Okay, time is up. Okay, let us now answer. Check your own paper. So for letter A, fill in the blanks. So congruent triangles have the same size and shape. The vertices of the congruent triangles can be matched so that their corresponding sides and angles are equal. In short, two triangles are congruent if and only if their length and angles are congruent. Okay, for letter B, determine if the triangles are congruent. Write the corresponding congruent parts and write the statement of congruence. 1 point for that and 3 points for the congruence statement. So the answer is, for the corresponding vertices, we have P corresponds to S, R corresponds to O, S corresponds to P. And for the congruent sides, side OS is congruent to side PR. Side SP is congruent to side SP. Side OP is congruent to side SR. And for the congruent angles, angle O is congruent to angle R. Angle P is congruent to angle S. Angle S is congruent to angle P. Okay, did you get the correct answer? Oh, that's great. So for your assignment, direction is You are going to give what is being asked in the problem. For number 1, given that triangle FUN is congruent to triangle DAY, list down all the corresponding parts. Number 2, name the congruent triangles having the following corresponding parts. Angle S is congruent to angle C. Angle I is congruent to angle O. Angle T is congruent to angle M. And side SI is congruent to side CO. Side IT is congruent to side OM. And side ST is congruent to side CM. Okay? Okay, so that's all for this lesson, dear students, and see you again on the next topic. Thank you.